What's happening, everyone? Welcome to the Sportscast. It's me, Andy Grant. We've got Musky here. We are in the Feathers. Big thanks to them for letting us host the pod here. Tonight, you've got Andy and Matt on. They're going to be singing. Tomorrow night, you've got the Left Indicators. And then on Sunday, big game of FA Cup football. Big day, of FA Cup football. Newcastle, Brighton, and Man United, Fulham. So again, get down here over the weekend. Live music on, loads of footy, FA Cup weekend. And again, Boss Boozer. I spent most of my weekend here last weekend and had a ball. So yeah, big thanks to those lads there.
How long did you spend in here on Saturday then?
Well, by the way, before anyone is listening and thinks like I'm trying to, what's the word? Like I'm trying to, like big it up or like, you know, sensationalise it or make myself look like big and hard. I'm not. Cause I'm actually quite embarrassed by it, to be fair. But I had a good, you know, a good few, let's say, on Saturday. And then on the Sunday, coming here for the Man City game, I mean, my dad was just reflecting on last night, said, but yeah, God, I didn't realise how pissed I was last night. Turned out we had 16 pints each. 16?
Fucking hell.
It worked out. We had a pint every 26 minutes.
Did the maths, yeah?
Did the maths on it, yeah. It was quite there's a bit of me that's like, that's a good effort, that. But then there's also a large part of me that's like, that's quite pathetic and sad.
Good. How long, I'm not going to do the maths myself. How many hours is that done?
It was 6.5, 7 hours, I think it was. We worked out between 6.5, 7 hours and worked out the pints, £4.20 a pint. So every round on mine and my dad's was £8.40. And we actually worked out, you know, you're meant to go round for round. I think I'd bought fucking 12 and he'd bought, I'd bought 10 and he'd bought 6 or something. Or it was like 8 and, anyway, it should have been 8 and 8, but it wasn't. So give me dad a little bit of abuse about that.
Your dad going for a couple of sly bifters?
Well, yeah, he must, or I was just forgetting and being Mr. Generous. But yeah, so there was a bit of me that's like, oh yeah, you know, I can handle me ale, happy days. And then there was other me that's like, that's quite pathetic. But I was in the Be The Standard kind of leadership group that I go to every month with Sadulo, and we were talking about alcohol. I'm not a big fat bastard who feels that they need to give up the ale, you know what I mean? I'm not someone who goes home and has a problem with, you know, I'm always fighting on the ale and stuff like that. I do it because I enjoy having a pint. So I don't think I know I'm not at a point where I'm like 100% this is an issue. I mean, it's not great sinking 16 pints, like I will give it that, but
I think it's the 16 pints and then you came back for round 2 on Sunday as well.
Only had 5 or 6 on the Sunday. I mean, that sounds disgusting, doesn't it? 20 odd pints in fucking 24 hours. A bit longer maybe, but yeah, but I was in the gym Monday.
Didn't feel the adverse effects at all?
No.
See, I do, you know, if I've had a day or two or a weekend where I've hit it a little bit, I reckon I'm still feeling shit by like Tuesday, Wednesday.
Yeah, but your job's like, you have to actually use your brain. I don't with mine. I just talk shite about myself, don't I? So it's not, I think it's a lot easier for me to get by with it. You're having to concentrate and, you know, bring your A game most day, well, all day, every day, I'm guessing. So I think that's my little get out of jail. But my dad obviously has a driving job, so he won't drink if he's driving the next day. So yeah. Anyway, the positive is it's a great boozer where you can just get lost in time, and if you are partial to a pint, you can sink them.
Yeah. So thanks to the Feathers anyway.
So thanks to the Feathers, yeah. Fucking paying everyone's wages. How was your weekend? You obviously we were away, weren't we? So you didn't go to the game. No?
Yeah, so just...
Oh, you went to watch it down the south end, didn't you?
Yeah, it's just went to a boozer to watch it. And if we're gonna, that's where we're gonna start. Then it was pretty straightforward, weren't it?
Can I say something?
Go on.
On this Saturday, the boxing was on, and I'd asked John to put a bet on for me, and so I put a bet on Callum, and won handsomely. And then there was a couple of games on after Callum's fight, a double on. I think there was Inter Milan and Spanish team. I rolled it over, done the double on that. So by the Sunday morning, I had over $1,000 in my betting account. Well, John's betting account. And I didn't say it because I knew he'd tell everyone and give me shit, or he'd like, you know, but I was going to do the double on. There was 2 home games, wasn't it? Newcastle were playing Forest. And I thought City had beat us, you know. I didn't want to say to John, do a little sneaky little double. Just a little 50 quid double or something on. But yeah, I mean, I would have took a draw, but I thought, I think they might win, you know. Because I know they're not in the title race, but I just thought the rivalry Liverpool and Man City have had, they know the league's done, but they won't want to roll over. And So yeah, I was a bit nervous.
I was a little bit nervous, more so because of the fact that like we dropped points against Everton, we dropped points against Villa, and I was thinking more on us not performing rather than them really performing or performing to the level that they can do. So I would have been probably happy with the draw before the game, if I'm being honest. But then just as the game unfolds, thankfully the better version of Liverpool turned up, and a different version of Liverpool as well. Like, it wasn't the version that we used to in terms of like, you know, going and attacking and keep, like, having possession of the ball and all that kind of stuff. We just let them have possession.
I know I was intrigued to see the possession stats at the end, because I know it did feel like at the time that we weren't getting a lot of the ball, but it didn't feel like they were creating massive chances, did they? And I think as the season's going on, we did allude to it at the start of the season, even after a few games, the style of play, I think as the season's going on, you can see it more and more, can't you? You know, this whole change from Klopp's all action, loads of drama in the game, to whether you want to admit it or not, we are playing more like Pep's Man City, aren't we? As the season's going on, I think, I know that game in particular, but I'm just talking about like the lack of drama and the lack of like giving away huge chances, and you know, this whole, it's just becoming more like a machine that we unfortunately had to, you know, witness with Pep and Man City.
Yeah, and I think the last two games have shown like there haven't been like loads of last ditch kind of things, because they've been defending as a unit, and then when we have been attacking, as you were saying before, just then, we haven't been like throwing everyone forward. It's like, right, you 4 or 5 go forward, everybody else can just like kind of pack it in just in case there's a counter or whatever. And showed that in the City game, and then again it showed last night as well.
Yeah. The one thing is, I remember saying after the Forest game when we got beat, it's going to be interesting if we're ever chasing a game, how we're going to play, because it's all very controlled, isn't it? It's all very measured, it's very thought out. And I thought, what happens when we're actually chasing a game? But the times when we have been a goal down, we've not panicked, have we? And we've built into it, which again showed on Sunday. You know, we haven't had loads of possession, but we're not panicking, are we? We're not giving away big chances. We're just like, no, this is all right. And it's been nice to see us win in so many different ways, especially against the likes of Man City, or albeit aren't at the best. They've still got star quality all over, haven't they?
Yeah, definitely. And I think in terms of, we've obviously got Salah popping up with at least a goal and assist, if not both, near enough every game. But it's the fact that other people are chipping in, and it's not always the same lads that are chipping in. It's not like the front three. Like the last couple of games, like obviously yesterday we've had McAllister and Szoboszlai. The game before it was Szoboszlai, Salah. Like, we've got a good mix of like players know, again, like I said before, players knowing when to go and getting into those positions that probably allow Salah to have the ball a little bit, and then they will get off the man while everyone's kind of fixated on whatever Salah's doing. And then it just allows other people to contribute to it with those goals and assists, and not have as much pressure on Salah like earlier on in the season.
Yeah, 100%. The one thing I will say, and I won't harp on about him too much because it's quite negative what I'm going to say, but I mean, it is worth noting. I think, so he starts, doesn't he, with Szoboszlai in a kind of part of the front three, if you like. I think the only time Nunez is ever going to get used in that team is if we're winning 2 or 3-0 and the game's done, or there's absolutely no other option. I don't think he ever gets a look in this first. I don't think he starts another game this season unless like it's a dead rubber or there's absolutely an injury crisis and they're all decimated. And I think the last 2 games has proved that, hasn't it? He's got an £80 million number 9 on the bench, and he's playing either Jones or Szoboszlai in those attacking roles rather than using him.
Yeah, and I think we might see him start in games where, touch wood, we could potentially have won the league and we're still in the Champions League and there's semi-finals coming up, and it's like, right, wholesale changes to make sure that everyone's fit for that game or whatever. Obviously, that's a lot further down the line. But I don't think you're wrong. I don't think he fancies him at all. He's said it a couple of times now that it's not just the fact that he's not scoring, it's the fact that his attitude looks like it's changed as well recently. We were saying about earlier on in the season, well, at least he gives it 100%, at least he's chasing and all that kind of stuff. Slot's defo seen that, he doesn't.
No.
So over the last maybe month or two, yeah, it's probably because he's not getting the minutes, so he's sulking a little bit and all that. But when you're going for the league and you're going for the Champions League and all that kind of stuff, you can't have any players dropping their heads and feeling sorry for themselves and all that kind of stuff. You've got to have players who, like Endo, come off the bench, do exactly what you need them to do, give someone a little bit of a break, but also you know what you're going to get with somebody like Endo for the last 15-20 minutes of every game now. No matter what position he comes in, whether it's through the middle or centre half, or sometimes he might even come on a full back or whatever, you know he's giving it 100% when he's on that pitch.
He's the model pro, isn't he?
Yeah.
You know what pisses me off as well? I don't want to move on too quickly to it, but the game against Newcastle, he comes on with however many minutes to go and the crowd starts shouting, Nunez. That fucking winds me up.
Do you know what? I thought about you and Gary last night because of the fact that the whole Dennis thing and all that from last week. But yeah, I think he did something somebody else shot, but then Nunez got the chance or whatever. It
baffles me.
To be fair, John, who he sits behind, he's one of our mates, he actually said, it's a bit condescending now. Like, how bad must it be?
Glad I'm not the only one who's fucking onto it now then.
He was like, how bad must it be that you only have to do something little and everyone's kind of like, oh, well done, mate.
Laddie, come on, he done a sprint. And I was like, Nunez.
Oh, what it was he knocked it back to right back or to centre half or something. So he dropped in a little bit deep and knocked it back. And that's just like basic football.
I know.
And people were cheering him and giving him a round of applause for that.
I said to me dad, I think Salah has had the sung about 3 times. He's been on the whole game, got an assist. Nunez has had just as many times as Song sang, and he's chased 2 people down in the last 30 seconds. Like, even in our group chat, lads we were talking about him. He put on his own Instagram, Nunez, saying about resilience. Does everyone forget he had a little fucking tantrum and he fucking deleted everything to do with Liverpool just a few months back? There's a saying that I do in my talks. I say it's very easy to stay positive when everything's going well. The real test of character is how you react when things aren't going so well. And the second things aren't going well for him, he stops running and his attitude's shit. So I'm fucking done with him, and I'm done with any fan who starts screaming Nunez because he fucking does a sprint.
Yeah.
Right?
And I think you've got to take the good with the bad, and I think it has polarised the fans because people are either slating him because they're done with him, or they're going over the top and being overly nice to him because they don't want to make him delete all his posts again.
Yeah.
Like,
fuck him.
As a pro, you've got to take the good with the bad, and Salah even said it in an interview with McManaman that came out this week, and he just said, I only need one chance. So I've got to make sure that I'm not going up and down. I've got to try and stay on that level where my mind is at its peak, so that if I do get that opportunity, I'm not thinking about something that happened 10-15 minutes ago. I'm actually thinking about the moment that I'm in now. And that's what one of the things that he said is, that's one of the reasons why I've changed in the last few years is I don't like dwell on things that have happened in the game. I don't moan at the ref about things that have happened 5-10 minutes ago. I need to be ready in that moment to do what I need to do for the team.
I remember there in the interview where that come from. He said he'd spoke to Arsene Wenger.
Yeah.
And Arsene Wenger had said, you know what makes a great player? And he said it's players who are in the game, the whole game. So that kind of concentration levels, which must take a lot if you're not touching the ball all the time, and to not let things get to you. So he's the level which I suppose every player's aspiring to be like. But yeah, onto City. Surprised again with how poor they are. I didn't realise how many players had a contract at the end of the season, which is baffling again. And I won't harp on too much about Pep. Everyone knows my feelings on him, but you do wonder about like the whole kind of the new build, if you like. And listen, might only be a couple of years and they'll be right back at it, because that's where Liverpool were. If you remember a couple of years ago, with our midfield, Henderson's legs had apparently gone, Fabinho's legs had gone.
Was a thing, wasn't it?
Wijnaldum was gone, and we're thinking, fucking hell, we've not rebuilt. And then here we are 2 years later and got a great midfield three again. So it doesn't take long when you're a big club to kind of get those players back in and, rejuvenate it. But yeah, at the time, you're looking Kevin De Bruyne. I mean, he doesn't even look like the same player.
No, he's a shell of himself.
And he's one player where I think I seen an interview with Van Dijk. He said, who's one player that you would have had in this team that could have took you over, to win more titles? And he said De Bruyne.
Well, he hasn't been playing that much this season, and even when we're watching the City game and the chat's going and all that, and people are saying how is De Bruyne still not off the bench or whatever. He started against us, and you can see why. Because Jordan training or whatever, Pep must be realising his legs are gone. He hasn't got the same kind of sharpness that he has, and that's his game, isn't it?
Yeah.
To have that presence of mind, to be like at that elite level where he can see things that nobody else can see. And now that his legs have gone and his mental state's probably not the best because he's not playing week in, week out, he's not as sharp and all that, he's not seeing those Kevin De Bruyne passes that he used to be able to do.
I also think as well, and maybe people disagree and say, you've got to be professional, but all the noise, the background noise at Man City, surely that's had an impact. I mean, I know you can say they've been unlucky with maybe injuries or this and that, but like if you're a player and your contract's up at the end of the year, I know Pep's only just signed a contract extension, hasn't he? These charges on the horizon. As a player, you're getting on in your age as well. You're looking for your last big contract. All these things have got to be rumbling on in each player. And I suppose if you're one of the star players, you're thinking, I'm not signing until I know he's signing. Because if I sign and he doesn't, we're not going to be as good and I don't want to be here. So there's so many little domino effects, I think, going on in City. And rather than falling in the right way, it's almost crumbling around them, isn't it?
Yeah. And if you just think about anyone in any job, if you know that the place that you're working in isn't the same environment that it used to be, people that you used to like get on with all the time, they're kind of coming to the end and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Just like any other job, you're going to start looking elsewhere and thinking, is this the best place for me? So that's why probably they've had to make those big signings in January to kind of show that they're willing to have that transition and to move forward. And they're just hoping that these players that they've brought in, they might not make an immediate impact like I know Marmoush has, but by next season they might be like...
Years,
because like even if you look at the three that we bought, like not last season, the season before, and it's like McAllister, Endo, Szoboszlai,
Gravenberch as well.
Yeah, so they didn't set the world alight straight away. It's taken them time to bed in, to know the system and all that kind of stuff. And now we're saying that that's the best midfield three in the league. Now, if you would have said that 12 months ago to 18 months ago, you wouldn't.
You can quickly change, can't it? That's why I'm not getting too excited that they're done for good. But I mean, it's maybe take a year or two, but they will be back. I've liked as well seeing how many we just mentioned then Szoboszlai, getting goals. I'm getting just as excited now seeing Salah get the assists as I am the goals. Obviously that record, the goals and assists, it's incredible what he's on the run. And I'm just as excited seeing him get an assist, which he obviously did for Szoboszlai. Nice to see him get a goal. And made it a bit more sweet to the fact that Arsenal slipped up as well.
Yeah, well, we had a good chunk of their first half that we watched before the Liverpool game, and they didn't look great, did they?
Not at all.
They didn't look like they were threatening much. Obviously, we don't know what's then happened like between 35 minutes and the end of the game, really. But because of the fact that they've got no strikers, they're playing a centre mid up front. It just screams that, like, as a team, that they haven't got what it takes to go right to the end. And Arteta's still saying, well, it's mathematically possible, we're still in and all that kind of stuff. He's probably just got to say that.
Yeah.
I think he was wound up a little bit by the person interviewing him yesterday. He was basically just like dead dismissive and just like, well, it's still there, so anything can happen and all that kind of stuff. Some of the players have got to be thinking, yeah, we're fucking done. Like,
yeah, I think the players have got to be well within the right to get angry at the manager as well for thinking that they could try and win the league without a striker. Yeah, listen, they've been arguably unlucky with injuries, but every team's had injuries this season. Like Alisson, if you look at our main 11, Alisson has been out for a bit, Robbo's been out for a bit, Konate's been out for a bit, Trent's been out for a bit. So our kind of solid defence, if you like, it's all been, at a chop and change at some point. Yeah,
got to patch up at some point.
The midfield, Jones has been out for a bit, Elliott's been out for a bit, Chiesa's not even been fit at all, has he? We've been quite lucky. I think Gravenberch and McAllister have been injured. Szoboszlai might have been.
The main midfield three, we've been quite lucky. Not just with injuries, but also with just in terms of like fitness of them as well.
But being also, able to play a lot. Whose fault is that though? I mean, unless you get a terrible challenge and you break your leg, whose fault is it though if players are overtraining and they're pulling hamstrings and stuff like that? I mean, there's got to be... We saw it when Klopp came in, didn't we? And we had a massive injury crisis and it was like, what's going on? Because the players having to adapt. There's got to be a little bit, listen, I'm not a sports scientist, but there's got to be a little bit that says you're training them too hard or you need to tweak the training or tweak this. And maybe the Liverpool medical staff need more praise because we have been quite lucky. I mean, we've been lucky compared to, say, Tottenham, but we still had problems, do you know what I mean? We've still had things, Kerr has come in and played at least 10 plus games, hasn't he, this season? Jota's been out injured loads. Gakpo's been out injured. So...
I
Yeah,
think
listen, we've had our fair share as well.
Yeah, and I think when we have had players coming back and stuff, I think the management have been quite good in terms of like trying to protect those players coming back.
Yeah.
So, say, you know, couple of games ago, you've got Trent coming off at like 65, 70 minutes. He'll be gutted. Some of the fans will be gutted because Trent had just assisted for or helped one of the goals. And then it's like, yeah, you're coming off. Now, in that moment, we're going, fucking hell, he's actually playing all right. But you've got to think about the fact that you want to have your best right back fit for the next game and the next game and the next game, especially if he's been injured for a good chunk of the season as well.
Well, did you see Mark Lawrence's comments?
No.
I've not seen Arne Slot. Arne Slot said in his press conference, someone basically asked him about the Trent stuff. And he said, yeah, I was driving in listening to TalkSport and someone called Mark Lawrence. He went, sorry, I don't know who he was, but
fucking hell.
He said he made a comment about me bringing Trent off. And he said if Mark Lawrence would have known Trent could only play this much because he's coming back from injury and that's the only reason I took him off. But, you know, so everyone was then saying, he doesn't know who Mark Lawrence is. So in response, Mark Lawrence said, yeah, I was going to go in and I think Ali McCoy said to him, you should go in, you know, and show him all your medals and show him who you are. And Mark Lawrence said, I've not got a bag that's big enough, to be honest, which I thought was quite a good response. But yeah, so it wasn't just us who kind of, obviously everyone was thinking, why is he bringing Trent off? And again, it just shows you good management in the squad, doesn't it? Even Conor Bradley's been injured. So, you know, squad players are even getting injured as well. So, yeah, I think the medical staff, the whole planning of the squad, I think, you know, deserve a chuck up. Especially
as well, because one of the things that I'd heard about it before yesterday's game anyway was that Szoboszlai was playing like basically back-to-back 90s, 4 games in a row. So I had a little look into it. And besides the Plymouth game, when he didn't even travel anyway, I don't think.
No, he didn't.
He's played every 90 minutes in February. So that's like 7 games, including the Tottenham semi-final and then the Premier League games. He's playing like back-to-back 90s.
That's like every 5 days, isn't it, or something?
Well, it's less.
Is it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like we're only on the 20. Well, it's the 28th when this goes out. Yeah.
Playing,
but it's not even just like, no offense to like centre backs or whatever. It's not like he's just playing in a role where you're not getting up and down the pitch. He's fucking everywhere.
Oh yeah.
Like the amount of running that he does and like good running, like not just chasing it for the sake of it. Like we might say Nunez might do, for example. He makes really good decisions on when to run, when to come back, and all that kind of stuff. Yesterday, when we're getting to like 75, 80 minutes, he's getting back into position, but you can see that it's like conservative runs to try and get that energy back in because he knows it's going to be another burst in another couple of minutes.
He even made the comment in that him and McAllister were talking afterwards and he was like, yeah, a bit tired now. And I'm made up that we're out the FA Cup now this weekend. Made up that they can just all have a week off. I think they got 2 days off the back end Saturday, I think. So yeah, I'm made up.
One thing that he did say as well, I think it was in the match of the day one, he said something like, I'm glad that I'm getting in with the goals and stuff like that, but I'm glad that I'm able to do the dirty work. And that's the kind of player that we thought we were going to get, and we probably didn't get much of last year, but he seems to be kind of ticking all of those boxes that we thought he'd be ticking when we first bought him. Yeah.
That then takes us on to Newcastle midweek. A lot more confidence. As I have my doubts about City, a lot more confident going into this. The fact that we're coming to the end of this, like 5 games that, you know, what was it, Everton, Forest, Wolves, City, Newcastle. I think we've ended up getting 11 points,
Villa,
I think it was. Oh, sorry, Villa, was it? We've ended up getting 11 points out of the 5, I think it was. A lot more confident going into Newcastle. And, pardon me, yeah, kind of just went into it straight away thinking, yeah, we're going. I think the fact that Isak wasn't even in the squad, I mean, listen, you'd be lying if you didn't have a smile on your face when you didn't see his name. So straight away going into the ground thinking, yeah, you know, I fancy us here.
Yeah, and to be fair, like one of the things that I was saying to a couple of people in work before the game was, I felt before the Wolves game that everyone was a little bit still like nervous, and the atmosphere in the ground was a little bit nervy, and the players looked a little bit nervy. And then after the Villa game, we were like, oh, fucking hell, dropped another 2 points there. And then we're sitting here last week and you're talking to Gary on here and you're saying like, well, we could drop a couple more points against City, we might drop against Newcastle, and
Arsenal might win.
Yeah. So in the space of that week, we've gone from thinking like Arsenal could close the gap to like 5 points with a game in hand to cut to today and we're saying Liverpool are 13 points ahead, just because of how that swing can happen so quickly.
Yeah.
Now that's why we can't really get carried away with, we've definitely, fucking won and all that kind of stuff. It's near enough.
I am now.
Yeah. So the crowd yesterday kind of alluded to the fact that it does look near enough done, but you've just got to, especially more so because of the fact that we're playing for, like, supporting Liverpool who've dropped points in the past and stuff, but that was against like the best City team.
Yeah.
And this Arsenal team aren't the same.
I think the big difference in this now, and I thought it was quite apparent in the crowd, obviously you saw on City on Sunday, the fans going berserk saying, hand it over Manchester, now you're going to believe us.
Even when Kanate made that challenge.
Yeah, and he's giving it the
and
big
he's
one.
like in front of the fans going, come on, and all that kind of stuff.
So I think, obviously, for those fans who didn't go to City away, who are now going to Newcastle at home, that was the kind of first chance of actually, you know what, I weren't there for City, and now we're going to win it. And I think now people are believing that. And I think people are believing it, not because of the lead that we've got. Was it 13 points, but they've got a game in hand. I think it's the opposition. If we're going up against Pep City of the last few years, I don't think anyone's getting that excited. I think it's the fact that it's Arsenal, who've been known to bottle it the last few years, plus they haven't got a striker. I think that's adding to it just as much as how well we're playing. Yeah,
and that, as you just said there, that City team of the last few years, they can be stringing like 15, 16 wins together.
Yeah.
And that's why no one could sleep on them. Like Arsenal, like people have said, like have bottled it in the last couple of years, but you can only bottle it so much and then go, do you know what? Look at all those games City have won back to back there. Now, thankfully, as you just said, we don't think Arsenal have got that in them.
No.
On the flip side, we can't see Liverpool losing so many games that they would throw that away either.
I honestly think it's 50-50, a case of we don't look like dropping points and they don't look like winning every game. I think that's the be all and end all, and that's why I'm now starting to think it's done.
And now we're starting to think like when, like what game do you reckon it's going to be, and
planning
all
my
that kind of
weekends all
stuff.
around it.
Yeah.
I think it could be the Spurs or the weekends of the wedding, Spurs or Arsenal.
I mean, it'd be great if it was Arsenal for more so for the people who are older than us who lost the league against Arsenal at Anfield, and like, so for people like our fellas' age and like a little bit younger, a little bit older and all that kind of stuff, they will have been heartbroken on that day. We've had something similar where it wasn't against that particular team, but on last game of the season where
against Wolves.
Yeah, so we thought we could have potentially won it and we didn't, and we had that little moment where City were behind and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, if you can win it against Arsenal in a similar fashion to the way that they won it against us.
And it's also a little bit like, if we go into the third last game of the season against Arsenal, and let's say it looks like we're probably going to do it anyway, but the fact that if we could just beat them anyway and go, hey, listen, we've just beat you there, so it's done. Regardless of the other games, we've just smoked you 3-0. You know what I mean? That'd be boss. Either way, I think it's done. Finally, I can say that, I think.
Well, Paddy Power paid out at the weekend, didn't he?
That, yeah,
after the Arsenal game, I think it was. Was it after the Arsenal game or after our game?
No, it was after. I think. Yeah, it was a mixture of obviously West Ham getting beaten and Liverpool winning, wasn't it? So it must have been Sunday evening. Obviously, then as well, City dropped more points against West Ham. Not West Ham. Who did he play last night? Forest. A 0-0 draw. So we gained another 2 points on
Arsenal, not City.
Arsenal, sorry.
Still thinking about City being second, aren't you?
I know. Gaining another 2 points. So yeah, it was just that. Like you say, from this time last week, going, oh God, it could be only 4 points to City and out 13. It's a good feeling.
Great feeling, mate, yeah.
One thing I think is probably does need addressing, because listen, let us know in the comments where you sit on this. And as we all know, I'm quite the bitter red. We know Gary's quite the bitter blue, and we all have mates in the city who are bitter reds and bitter blues. We need to just agree that some of the shouts are just fucking terrible. So my sister's fella, Harry, also a bitter blue. I want to name check him here because he talks absolute fucking shite. So, no, this, and Harry won't be the only one who's chatting absolute shite, by the way. There'll be loads of people who knows like this. So I texted him on Sunday and I said, please tell me you're watching the footy. That's at 6:10. Obviously, we've just beat City. And he's went, nah, I'm not even watching it, haha, blah, blah, blah. This is the shouts that do my head in. He's put, you've won the league a long time ago, lad. The competition is awful. Arsenal and City this year are terrible. Footy is getting worse. Bournemouth is 6th. Forest are 3rd. Say no more. And he goes on talking shite about, like, basically not giving Liverpool any credit because everyone else is crap. Now, okay, fine, I have that opinion. But what's your opinion when it's City winning the league by, 20 points, or it's Liverpool winning the league by 20 points? Is the league amazing then, is it? Because there's one team doing it? Because we look at Germany or France and we go, those leagues are shit because it's just one team who are in with a shout. And it's always the same team. Now we get a league where Bournemouth are having a go, Forest are having a go. The supposedly big teams like Spurs and United aren't doing it. But then it's still shit. So it's like, hang on, you can't say the league great when it's just one team winning it every year by loads of points. But then have the exact same opinion when it's the complete opposite and it's a few different teams who win. Like, it's fucking, I get bitterness and I get all that, but come on, at least have an educated football opinion on it.
I think this is the most entertaining season that we've had in a while, and not just like title race or whatever. Like, barring the bottom three, which look like they're already done anyway, all the other positions keep changing. For the fact that, like, as we were saying before, Moyes came in, Everton were fighting down in relegation, and now they're mixing it with United and Spurs, who are meant to be top six and all that kind of stuff. So they've dropped off because teams are beating them more than they should. And as you're saying there, you got what are so-called like lower teams or well, yeah, we just bottom table teams from previous seasons, Bournemouth or Forest or whatever. They're just showing what happens if you get right recruitment. I know that like Forest threw a load of money at it a few seasons ago and it's only clicking like this season. But like Bournemouth are a well-run club. They've got a good coach who knows how to get the best out of their players. Now on paper, you might not say that, starting 11 to starting 11, like against some of the other teams that they're better than them. But the way that they play suits them and it gets them points and it gets them to the position that they're in. If you look at the positions or the points tally for the top half of the table, there's like 6 to 8 points between 7 or 8 positions. And those positions can change literally within the space of 2 games.
Yeah, exactly.
So I don't get the argument that it's shit because if anything, if everyone can take points off everyone else, then it's...
Exactly. I just, for anyone who thinks Liverpool are only winning the league because they're shit, just please tell me like what defines a shit league. Is a shit league when the supposedly smaller teams are competing for Europe and the supposedly bigger teams down at the relegation? Does that define a shit league? Or is it a shit league when there's just one team, like the likes of Bayern Munich, winning it every year by 20 points and PSG? Is that a shit league? Is it a shit league when there's only 2 teams who are up in the top? Because, like, you can't say just because Liverpool are top, it's a shit league. You've got to give some sort of explanation because I'm seeing a lot of bitter blues going, yeah, it's because fucking it's just a shit league. That's the only reason they're winning it. Well, tell me what makes a shit league for you, because that argument doesn't make sense.
Especially for the fact that, like, if you look back to like July and August and stuff like that, no one was giving Liverpool a shout anyway.
Exactly.
Liverpool were, for a lot of people, weren't even getting Champions League. So now it's like, oh, Liverpool are top, it's a done deal and all that kind of stuff. The league is shit. But how can it be when you're basically saying the league's shit because the team that you didn't expect to be first are first?
I think you could maybe, for me anyway, me personally, I would be saying the league is shit or the standard is low if, for example, any time there was a chance for a team to capitalise, they weren't. So, for example, if there was like and only points in it, for example, and Liverpool needed to win, but for example, against City, they didn't win. But then Arsenal won, and then it was a chance for them to go vertically, but they didn't. And no one was taking the chances. And then you'd go, oh yeah, no one's clinical. Well, Liverpool have been clinical. Liverpool have been beating everyone when they needed to. They've been beaten once all season. Like,
in the league.
At some point, you've got to just say, yeah, this is a great team. And it is a great team. You've got Mo Salah in the form of his life. Virgil van Dijk, one of the greatest centre-halves the league's ever seen. Alisson, Brazil's number 1. Okay, now at some point, you've got to go, hey, they're a fucking great team, these, So, listen, I'm bitter, like people will know who know me. No problem with Blues being bitter. But at some point, you've got to go, hey, listen.
Give Liverpool the flowers.
Give Liverpool the flowers, because it's a great Liverpool team who are playing great. So, yeah, just, one other thing as well, while we're on the whole supporter rivalry thing. A great stat I thought was great, but funny old thing, it immediately got shut down by Gary, but also a mate of mine, Johnny, who's a big United fan. And basically, it's a mad stat, this, you know. So there's a graph there saying that the days since a team lost the Premier League home game by 2+ goals. So obviously when this stat came out, we just beat Man City. So for example, Man City had only went by Monday, 1 day since they were last beaten 2-0 at home. It then goes like Southampton, Ipswich, blah, blah, blah. It gets down to the likes of Notts Forest have went 106 days since they were last beaten by 2 goals or more. Arsenal have went 316. Liverpool, during that COVID season where no fans were allowed, that's the last time they were beaten by 2 goals or more. That's 1,465 days ago.
Was that Everton?
It might have been, yeah. We got beat a few times, didn't we? If you want to go back to a time when Liverpool have been beaten by 2 goals or more at Anfield with a full stadium, you've got to go back 3,467 days. That's 9.5 years ago. Now, I then posed the question to a few Blues I know and a few United fans I know and said, surely if there's a stat that says the Anfield crowds makes a difference, it's that stat. Obviously, it was thrown backwards saying that means fuck all, you know what I mean? But surely, though, if there's a team that hasn't been beaten by 2 goals or more for nearly 10 years at home, fucking hell, and the next one along is a year.
The same team, but without the crowd.
Oh, yeah, the same team without the crowd. But I mean, so the next other team is 316 days. So that's probably, about 9-10 months. Liverpool got 9.5 years. Like that, surely that says the Anfield factor is real. Like, listen, we've been beat 1-0 at home this season, but you're always in it, aren't you? It's very rare, but clearly it is very rare. I'm talking 9.5 years rare, where you're at a game at Anfield and you're getting beat 2-0 and it's kind of done and dusted.
I think it's one of those things as well, like, loads of opposing fans will say, like, you know, Anfield's a myth and all that kind of stuff. But
it's clearly not, though.
Well, yeah, you can see from that, but also it's like, from the top pros who have been there, done that, being all around the world, been to all the stadiums, managers and players, they look 9 times out of 10, they say Anfield's the most intimidating or the best atmosphere or whatever they want to kind of label it as. And then the only times that certain players don't is when they also have an allegiance to one of our rivals.
Of course, and they're trying to get in with their own fans. Listen, two of the greatest Premier League managers ever. I think Fergie's favourite game was Anfield. Wenger's been on record saying about Anfield factor. Mourinho's been on it. So, yeah, and I get the bit and it's fuck off and all that, but I just thought that stat was mad. You know, nearly 9.5 years, and your next is your own club, but you're in COVID, and then the next one is Arsenal. It's pretty impressive stat, I thought. And I
think this season's shown quite a lot as well, is that, like, being defensively solid does make a massive difference. Like, when you've got players who very rarely will concede, and when they do, it's only like by 1 goal, it just allows a lot more, a lot less pressure on the players going forward, and then they can perform a little bit better because they're not burdened with, well, we're leaking at the back here, so if we're leaking 2, you've got to get 3 or 4. Yeah. We know that if we can score 2, more often than not, 95% of the time, it'll be a victory because we're not going to concede 2.
No, 100%. And I know we're going to come on to Everton now, but that was Everton's big problem, wasn't it? I think the pressure on the strikers were, on the defence, it's like, we're doing our best to hold them at bay. You actually need to score. Like, come on, and with them not scoring, it does just create pressure for the whole team, where thankfully Liverpool have been so solid defensively.
And then that shows when Everton have been scoring over the last 5-6 weeks, it does make a massive difference to their league position then.
Yeah. So before we move on to Liverpool, Everton, Liverpool 13 points ahead of Arsenal. Arsenal now closer to 10th than they are first. I mean, if that doesn't give you confidence, it's done, isn't it?
Fingers crossed.
It's done, lad, it's done. Right, we'll come on to the blue shite then. Obviously, Gary's not here. Listen, you've got to give Everton the flowers again, really, haven't you? I mean, just so impressed with David Moyes. Like, I just think, you talk about man managers. Whatever he's done, Fergie's known as one of the greatest man managers, That's why Moyes was brought in to replace Fergie. I think they thought he could kind of be that for United. Obviously, he wasn't. But he clearly knows Everton inside out. He knows the club. He knows the fans. He's getting to know these players really fast. And what a job he's done. I mean, if anything, it's making Sean Dyche look like a terrible manager, isn't it, really? I was a fan of Dyche, thinking, you know what, he'll keep them up, he'll show them up defensively, and he'll do a job. I think Moyes' performance is making even probably the biggest of Dyche fans going, Sean Dyche is shite. Like, he's been that much of a revelation, because those players, see, I'm not an Everton fan, but you look at those players and you're thinking, I was convinced they were going down just looking at that squad. I didn't think it was up to much. Given the run of form they were in, given the fixtures they had, given the points tally, given the style of play, given how they can't score to save their life, I was thinking there's no way Moyes can do anything with this squad. And yeah, it just shows you by tweaking a few things and giving players a bit of confidence, absolutely turn them around, hasn't he?
Yeah, and as you just mentioned there, it makes Dyche look shit. It just makes Dyche look like he only had one plan. And his plan was don't concede goals. And he didn't really give much freedom to anybody else. The players that were in attacking roles, they were asked to do a lot more defensively. They were asked to tuck in. They were asked to kind of not really have much creativity. And when Moyes came in, those players are the ones that are actually flourishing now.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, Ndiaye got injured against us, but he was doing really well. Lindstrom's been doing really well. And Lindstrom wasn't even really getting a look in at all under Dyche. Very rarely would he get like a start, or would he get good minutes. Riyadh O'Brien, he's played, I think, every game under Moyes so far. Played really well at the back, but then he even gets a goal in the Everton game yesterday. Like,
Beto's been the big one for me.
Yeah.
Beto, I mean, I think most clubs would look at when they were coming up against Everton going, give the ball to Beto, I'm not arsed, he's fucking shite.
Yeah.
Whereas now he's looking prolific in the last few games under Moyes. You're going, wow, if he gets a chance, he's probably going to score.
I think he had a couple of moments yesterday where last week probably would have scored, and I don't know whether it was a little bit of overconfidence or whether it was just like he was just having a bit of an off game. But he had a couple of chances where he could have put them away. I think he tried to take one round the keeper, and he kind of like didn't get it out of his feet. Then I think near the end of the game, he tried to like wrap his foot around it to go like top in. Keeper made the save when he could have potentially passed it to Alcaraz. No.
He's become a bit of a favourite, hasn't he?
Charlie.
Alcaraz.
Yeah. But again, it's because he works hard. Now, when you're new to a team, just show that you're willing to kind of pull your socks up and work hard for your team, and then you can do the other little bits if you can. So he looks like he's a good attacking player. He gets a good few shots off, but he does work hard, and he's showing already. Like yesterday when Beto missed and he could have potentially passed it to him, he was fuming. And he's only been there a few weeks, but he's showing there like, I don't care. Yeah. Like I was the better option. I would have scored for the team, blah blah blah. But he's showing like straight away he's not hiding like new players might do.
Yeah, when you come into a poor team, things aren't going you well. You do see players, especially young players who are new to the team, and you don't think, I don't really want to get stuck in here, but fair play to him, and maybe that's again down to Moyes, the confidence he's given them. I mean, it was the ultimate, cliche of a game of two halves. I couldn't believe it when Everton was 2-0 at half time. I know United are bad, but still I thought, wow, fair play. United come back in the second half, it dominated the second half, played a lot better. I think that was a stonewall penalty.
Yeah.
Like, I cannot believe... I don't understand. The ref's watching it in real time. The ref gives a penalty. So he's there watching it. He's like, yeah, that's a pen. He goes back and watches it on the VAR. It still looks like a pen to me. But he somehow changes his mind. I don't get how you can... I think most people, if they're being honest, looked at that VAR, you'd go, yeah, he's getting pulled by definitely one player, probably two.
I thought he got pulled twice.
Yeah.
Got pulled by the bottom of the shirt and then by the top of the shirt. And normally when it's VAR, it's got to be that the ref has made a clear and obvious error. Now, if we're still saying after watching it back that you can still see a pull, then you shouldn't be able to overturn that. No. If it was the other way around and he didn't give it and you've gone, go and check that, and he goes, you know what, there wasn't enough in it.
Yeah.
You can go, fine, hold your hands up, that's okay. But I do think if you do give it and then you still see that there is contact on the shirt, he does pull. I think Young doesn't help himself because he does...
His legs kind of go
He throws
first,
himself into the fall rather than just like actually falling.
But that line, like, clear and obvious. So he's watched it in real time. He's seen a pull, definitely one pull, enough to give the penalty in real time. He's went back. He can clearly see the pull on the video that he's seen in real time. So obviously, there's not been a clear and obvious mistake, has there? Because he's seeing on the video what he's seeing in real time. So why even VAR? I've told him to go and look at the monitor. Surely when they're sitting in Stockley Park, they can go, well, I can see why he's blue for that. So it's not clear and obvious, because I can see why he's at least blue for it in real time. So I think they made a mistake even sending him over to the...
I think it was always going to get checked, especially for the fact that, like...
It can get checked, but it doesn't need to get... You need to go and look at this yourself. Yeah. I think they've bottled it. And, yeah, I don't know. I sit on the fence with VAR. 1 week I'm for it, 1 week I'm against it. But I think this time it was really poor, and it was... I thought Everton... I'm rightly so feel very aggrieved that he didn't get the penalty in the last minute.
I think the result of the game probably fair,
it was fair
on the balance, but in terms of that happening in the last couple of minutes, then you would be very aggrieved if you were an Everton fan there.
The great tweet was Everton the only team to win and lose a 2-2 draw in consecutive weeks or something. Was quite funny. But yeah, no, fair play to Everton, I thought, yeah. And then midweek, they get a draw against United, and then they go to Brentford, who've been great at home. I thought Brentford would win there. I did think Brentford would bring a stop to Everton's kind of run of form. They go a goal behind. I think it was Visser who scored. And then they come back and get the draw. Again, a great point.
Yeah, and again, if we think back to maybe a Dyche team, if they go down 1-0 at Brentford, and Brentford have got a good home record, I think a lot of those players are like, we're probably not going to get a goal here.
Yeah.
And to be fair, there was a few chances that Everton could have went ahead as well.
I've seen that, yeah. I've seen the highlights and that. They might have got a bit more from it. I thought the draw was probably fair. But again, I think it depends on what... shame Gary's not here to kind of give his view on it. I think it depends what kind of mindset you're in as an Evertonian. You're looking at these games now going, this is like the Everton of old, what we expect. I think Everton fans would probably want to go to Brentford and think a draw's minimum, So you're kind of happy with the draw, or you've got the mindset of like, I don't care anymore. I just want to survive in the Prem type thing, or Everton fans starting to get the optimism back where they're going, nah, this is the old Everton back now. We should be going and getting a point and maybe even nicking a game here, and we should be at minimum getting a draw at home against United. I think it's interesting to see where Evertonians' mindsets are going to be in now in these last couple of months of the season. Are they thinking, right, we're back, let's start pushing on?
I think the expectations have definitely shot up. Like,
they've shifted a lot quickly. That's my only fear. It's like, how are they going to get ahead of themselves a bit too much, or is it like...
Well, I reckon they've gone past the honeymoon phase of the new manager bounce.
Yeah, I agreed, yeah.
Because they're still getting those performances where they are playing well. And I do think going into that game, maybe earlier on the season, you go, do you know what? A draw at Brentford's a good result. Based on maybe the last 6 to 8 weeks, they probably think going in there going, we should be able to beat these.
Yeah.
Because they've proven that they can beat teams who are in and around there and higher than that as well. But yeah, I reckon on reflection that they probably would have been 50-50, to be fair, because I think some are still quite realist and be like, look where we were like a couple of months ago. But then some will be saying, well, now that we are near enough safe and probably are near enough mathematically safe, and saying, let's just go and enjoy every game and try and make every game a win, rather than like trying to scrape for a draw or whatever. They have got that freedom to now try and push on, and obviously they're not going to break into Europe or they're not going to get relegated. It could be a case of now, let's start building for next year and see
you know what I think it's not a crazy aim for Everton for a top 10. If they just go, you know what, let's try and get a good run together and let's try and get to the top 10. I think if they can get top 10, what a season that'd be.
Especially from where they were in December.
Christmas, yeah.
Yeah.
On their opponents, on Man United, one thing that I think's really, really kind of unfortunate for United, which I'm really happy to say I'm fucking made up. United, obviously, for all our childhood, brought us a lot of misery through the 90s and noughties. Then you've had Chelsea come in, Abramovich throw all this money at it. You've had City come in, throw all this money at it. Things are changing with PSR. We've had Newcastle be bought and try to replicate it, but have been kind of had the hands tied. I don't think I'm crazy to say, and again, people will correct me and say they will come back. I think it's obviously not impossible, but it's going to be really, really, really difficult for United to ever get close to winning a league again. And the reason I think that is they can't just get a new owner come in and just throw billions at it, because PSR ruling and things like that, you know, you can't do it overnight. They've already got £1 billion squad, which they've invested this last 10 years, and look where they are. So it's a case of shipping those players out and bringing players in, which, as we know as a Liverpool fan, takes years. You also need to get lucky with a manager who kind of gets the club, gets the city, gets the fans, and brings you all along. Like Liverpool were lucky enough to have under Jurgen Klopp, who, by the way, I think is like a generational type manager. You know, you're not getting Jurgen Klopp's coming along every year. You know, that's like almost an Alex Ferguson, Wenger, Mourinho kind of Klopp mould. They're not coming along all the time. So if you're a United fan, you somehow need to hope that the rules can somehow change. New owners come in who want to throw a load of cash at it, but can do it in a clever way, almost the way Todd Bowley has with selling hotels. You need to then hope for a manager who comes in who can like just get everyone together and pull them all along. And then you've also got to hope that you have about 6 transfer windows where you can shift all this dead wood and bring in some absolute worldies, gel them all together. For those 4 or 5 things to happen, fucking more chance of my leg growing back. Honestly, it's like, so as a United fan, or for United fans, and I think the media, I just think the quicker the media and United fans come to the realisation that you aren't winning the league for the next 20 years. Like, honestly, I just don't, given those reasons, I'd love to hear anyone tell me how I'm wrong.
And we were saying before about the Man City thing. If you're a Man City player and you're looking around and uncertainty at the club and all that, are you not performing, are you looking elsewhere and all that kind of stuff? Just look down the road to United. The amount of kind of changes that they're trying to make financially just to like eradicate any debt and to, you know, build funds and all that kind of stuff. They're losing so many of like the day-to-day staff.
Yeah.
I read something the other day, and it was like, for the amount of staff that they've got rid of in the last couple of months, in terms of the amount of money that they'd save, they may as well have just gotten rid of Mason Mount.
Yeah.
Like, I think he's making like 30 million a year or something like that. And they're trying to get rid of like minor stuff. So like, you know, reducing meals in the canteen. And yeah, that might save it a little bit of money, but look at the players that are the main assets that you can actually make money on. And unfortunately for them, the players that they brought in on big wages, and for some of them big price tags, they're not recouping that at all.
No.
Because no one wants to buy a Mason Mount because he can't get in the United team and he's always injured. So what's that asset worth? Then you're looking at players that they've had to like send out on loan as well. Yeah, they might make some money if those players perform and stuff like that. But you've just mentioned there about getting rid of that dead wood that's worth £1 billion. But then you've got to try and get players in that are better than that and also cheaper than that.
Yeah.
It's not going to happen.
It's not happening. And what I think is absolutely crazy, you know, again, with my job, work with businesses, and a lot of it's about culture and people. Jim Ratcliffe, listen, who am I to question his business acumen? You know, he's a billionaire. But I think United fans, whoever thought Ratcliffe was going to come in, who's a billionaire British exile who lives in Monaco so he doesn't have to pay tax, whoever thought he was going to come in and be very, you know, generous with his money and frivolous with his money. I mean, you were fucking on cloud cuckoo land to even think that he was going to be like that. The fact he's went so far the other way, I think, is insane.
He's properly stripping it, isn't he?
Well, you think about if you're in that, I think it was Jamie Webster when we had him on the podcast. I think when he went on one of the tours with Liverpool, he said what impressed the most was about Klopp, about like he kind of made an effort with all the staff, and it was all like, you know, remembered everyone's name and he knew everyone and things like that. It was a real togetherness from like, you know, the canteen ladies right up to the top. Now you look at United now. If you work in that canteen, and if you believe what you read in the papers on social media, apparently he's cut out the staff canteen food. So if you're a staff member at Old Trafford, not only have you lost 400 of your mates, of your colleagues have all been made redundant.
It's also the fear of redundancy on top of that. You've
no doubt lost a load of mates, but you're thinking my own security now is now at risk. You go into the canteen at United's training ground. I'm assuming it used to be free food. Now it's not free food for you. You think you get a banana, I think.
There's been different stories. So one said that it was soup in a sandwich, and then another one said that you get like a piece of fruit.
Yeah.
And the one that said piece of fruit, that was BBC Sport, by the way. So they must have got it from somewhere. It wasn't just like someone making a joke on Twitter.
But if you're looking at the likes of, say, for example, Liverpool, who've built this culture under Klopp and it's now been continued under Slot, you compare that, the top of the league, doing well in the Champions League, in a League Cup final, compare that to United and a culture of togetherness. You're a staff member working at Old Trafford's training ground. You used to get your lunch for free, now you've got to pay a tenner. You look across the table and Casemiro's there on 350 grand a week, eating his food for free. How does
that make sense?
How are you got that feeling of, we're United, we're together, come on, let's get us back to the pinnacle of English football? How is that culture helping anyone at the club? So for Jim Ratcliffe, this super successful billionaire, to not realise that, I think is so short-sighted. And that's why I believe United, they're not winning the league for 20 years. And United fans will probably come back and say, well, Liverpool went 30 years without winning it. Yeah, we did, but thankfully for Liverpool, the rules weren't maybe as stringent, and you know, you could maybe invest a bit more than you can now. And we were lucky, like I've just said, we had a Jurgen Klopp come in. There isn't a Jurgen Klopp out there at the moment for United to come in. And anyone who thinks this Amarin is, I'm yet to see it personally. But that's just one small factor. I think it's the culture. Obviously the owners that they've got, never mind I've not even mentioned the Glazers. Even just this Jim Ratcliffe and how he's behaving. I think there's a lot of hair to go if you're a United fan. And I just think what's really interesting about the media and why United gets spoken about so much is because they were dominant for so long. All the greatest players United had, you know, the likes of Neville's and Keane's, and you know, they're on the mainstream media all the time. So United are going to be spoken about. But the reality is, there's going to have to become a point in the next couple of years where the likes of Keane and Neville stop going in so hard on United, because it's not like they're comparing this United to when they won Everton. This is not like the point I'm trying to get at in a long-winded way is this is not United. This is like not Man United that we grew up with. This is like a Tottenham.
It would be similar to like when we were in the Hodgson era and like people like our dads and they'd seen like the 80s and 70s and 80s teams and like all that dominance, and then people might in the media at that point might have been talking about Liverpool being Liverpool, and then for us we were like, well, we haven't really seen that. And like the kids that I teach now, they don't have any kind of notion that Man United are a big club.
No,
they get it from like the media, as you just said, but in terms of like what they've actually seen, they haven't seen United dominate much at all in the 16 to 18 years that they've been around. And it's people like us who have seen them absolutely dominate, and the players who are part of that kind of still might hold them in that kind of regard. But as you're saying, facts are facts, and if you're looking at the bigger picture of everything that's gone on with them over the last like 10-15 years, they're not one of the big clubs anymore, and that's unfortunate for them. It's great for us because we hated them growing up because they won everything. So I
think they're a long way off, and like you say, not only are we seeing it on the pitch how awful they are. I mean, they were getting I mean, they beat Ipswich, but Ipswich are probably already down, and they made hard work of it, real hard work of it. So yeah, on the pitch, big struggles, but even off the pitch, I think that's the really like the crazy thing. I think is just they're so far off it in so many ways, and yeah, like I mentioned, it's the way the league's set up now with financial fair play and PSR. I think it's not impossible, but it's gonna take
a lot of baby steps.
A lot of baby steps and a lot of stars to align to get anywhere close to competing with the likes of Liverpool, Arsenal and City. This weekend, like I say, the mighty Plymouth knocked Liverpool out, so Liverpool aren't in action this weekend. Our next game is PSG on Tuesday, which will be a cracker. FA Cup this weekend though, and obviously Plymouth got a big tie against City. I think the only thing you're open for this weekend as a Liverpool fan is City don't win, because...
Yeah, it'd be a good little upset, wouldn't it?
Be great. And also, like... I fucking hate Pep. I don't want him to win anything this season, and it'd be great to see Plymouth win. I like Plymouth's manager. After he done that motivational talk that I took some notes from, I like him. Yeah, so listen, it'd be great. Be tough for them at City's ground, but you never know the magic of the cup and all that. Newcastle at home to Brighton. Newcastle could do a little something in the FA Cup this season. You never know. But yeah, apart from that, no real... you know what? I'm sounding a bit... I think after this weekend, and we've been lucky enough to experience the last few years, it gets a bit tasty, doesn't it? And we've laughed and joked as fans. It's sometimes even, never mind the players, as a fan, you're a bit like, fucking hell. You know, you're doing the kind of Tuesday, Saturday, Wednesday kind of stuff. And that's what we've got now, haven't we, with the league and the Champions League kicking back in and a League Cup final. So I'm happy to have a weekend off, to be honest.
Yeah, defo. And it would have been a week where we had to play City again. So if we were still in it.
Oh, of course, yeah.
So yeah, thankful that the players didn't have to go through another round of fixtures. Obviously, it's always good to be in the Cup. But if at the beginning of the season you got told you have to sacrifice the FA Cup, but you've got a really good chance of winning the league.
All day.
Yeah, exactly.
All day. And a couple of other bits I saw in football which are really interesting. So in Turkey, you've got Mourinho in charge of Fenerbahce. Galatasaray being like the main team in Turkey, I think that's fair to say. There's been a lot of talk about referees basically getting done what Pep Guardiola and Barcelona done a long time ago and paying them off. Obviously, Barcelona got done for that. Another reason I hate Pep. But basically, that's been going on, or there's suggestions that going on in Turkey that referees are favouring Galatasaray. So much so, Mourinho was obviously brought up. Is Mourinho kind of impacting his circus that follows him? They've made a bit of a thing of it. And when they played each other this week, they actually got a referee in who wasn't Turkish. I think he was, Polish or something. And they've brought him in the hope that he'd be,
totally neutral.
There'd be no drama, totally neutral. The game ended 0-0. I don't think there was that much controversy in it. But it just shows you just how kind of... I think the Mourinho effect has definitely helped with that. But there's talk about referees, biased towards Galatasaray. Mourinho being in charge of Fenerbahce's kind of added fuel to the fire. They're only 6 points behind him in the league with about 10, 12 games to go. Mourinho, could have closed the gap, but it ends up finishing a draw. But I just thought, quite a sad state of affairs to know that you're having to bring in a referee that's not from your country because no one trusts the referee in that country. There was even more drama after it, where Mourinho was accused of being racist.
I did see that bit, yeah.
Where then Didier Drogba's come out and who had to know played for Galatasaray. Yeah. And he's come out and tried to calm the waters and said, look, he's my dad. He's
I've known him for 25 years and all that. I saw that, yeah.
It was the whole, I'm not racist, I love John Barnes kind of shout I thought was coming from it. But yeah, I thought that was interesting in Turkey. You had into Miami, Messi was playing. You had a referee come up to Messi at the end of it, a Mexican referee who asked for his autograph at the end, which you're not allowed to do. And he was given a 6-month ban.
So you can't do that under any circumstance, like post, pre?
Well, he must have done it. I'm guessing on the pitch was probably a bit stupid to do. You'd at least go to me after the game. Can I grab your autograph? The Mexican referee come out and said, my family, it was for my family. He's obviously got young children or something. I thought that was a bit harsh. Messi giving the autograph,
And just think though, when players ask for shirts to be swapped and all that kind of stuff, it's not that much difference, is it? If he's done it at the end of the game when there's no... Obviously, if he does it at the beginning of the game as a bribe,
yeah.
But it sounds like he hasn't, so...
It's a bit harsh, I think.
Yeah, and that... I mean, if anyone's in any position where they could potentially get an autograph of Messi to give to one of the kids or whatever, they would. I think 6 months is mad,
It is really harsh.
I mean, it sets a precedent, but I think it's a bit much.
And then you'd also had Messi. I've not seen it myself. Apparently, grabbed the opponent's manager by the neck and caused a bit of drama, which he got a ban for or a fine for. So there was a bit of drama in the game.
Mm.
Anything else on footy?
No. Do you want to have a little touch on the boxing?
The boxing, yeah. So it was, to be honest, like I mentioned at the start of the show, I was well oiled going into Saturday. So sober enough to see Callum and Bawatsi were an absolute, potential fight of the year. We're talking, weren't they? With a round of the year in there as well. I think it was round 6.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, we spoke Callum up, didn't we, last week? I had a couple of quid on the knockout, which I thought he was going to get at one point. But then my main stake was on just him to win.
Well, we said last week that having Bawatsi favourite was a bit of a mad one from. I only got mine from Sky Bet, but apparently all the other betting outlets were saying the same, that Callum Smith was not favourite for that fight. Obviously,
and Callum knew that because he come out and thought it was a bit disrespectful. He said that.
Yeah, and you said obviously you wanted it to be a knockout, but the more realistic with those kind of two fighters in that ring was it probably will go the distance and it'll probably be a Callum result, and it was. So thankfully for you and whoever might have threw on a few quid.
Gary had a few quid on it as well. I got a few messages on Instagram as well, so people were definitely on it. Just great for Callum as well, because I think he's my favourite fighter. I've said it for years. I don't know him personally in a sense to ask him why, but one thing you could argue at him that he's not been active enough. That's
humble, isn't he, as well?
Yeah, he's very humble. He doesn't, shout and scream. That's how he is. And he'll have his reasons and be able to tell people why he hasn't fought maybe as much as he's wanted to. That's, I think, the only thing people could level at him. But when you actually get him in the ring, he's flawless. He's only been beaten twice. So why anyone had him as the underdog, and that was absolutely insane. And he's proved, I think, every Scouser right that, we all backed him to win, which he did, and sets up a great fight now where I'm hoping he fights Bivol, with Bivol getting the victory against Bitbiev.
Potentially, it definitely puts him in the window for any big fights now, which this time last year he knew he wasn't kind of in the mix for those kind of fights, and he's had a couple of low bill kind of tune-ups, and then even with this one at the weekend, we were saying, like, how could this fight be so low on this card?
Yeah.
And it was because the card was stacked. One of the things that Gary was hoping was that maybe because Stevenson had a different opponent that would have been brought further down, but they still needed Stevenson to get the eyes on him. Obviously, he's only been signed to Matchroom for a couple of years, so they still want to kind of promote him to the rest of the world. American all know how good he is, and boxing fans probably know how good he is, but if anyone's tuning in for like kind of like the fair weather, you might not know as much about him, so you probably want to see someone like him putting on a show.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I didn't actually see that fight, but from what I got off Twitter is he was good, he was professional, but he should have kind of put on more of a show. I think I'm not sure, was it Adam Cattrall maybe or Nick might have said something along the lines of, if you're getting booed when you win, it's a dangerous place to be.
Yeah.
And I think he didn't put on enough of a show, considering that his opponent got pulled out of nowhere on Wednesday, I think. It's
always the risk, I guess, isn't it? That the pressure's on now. It's like it's like, I suppose, in football, isn't it? When you get an FA Cup clash, and it's like you look at City Plymouth this weekend, you're going, well, City should win 6-0. But as we saw when they played Liverpool, it doesn't always happen that way. So, that pressure's obviously, I don't know, you could say it's got to him, but he hasn't performed as well as he should. Parker was the other one, which was a fight again where an opponent's been brought in last minute. What did he last 3 or 4 rounds? Which I think is fair play. I think he only got off his flight. He'd only been off his plane about 10 hours.
Well, he didn't even do any of the. Obviously, didn't do any of the press. Didn't do the weigh-ins. Didn't do the face-off. Didn't do anything like that. But as we were saying last week, and this was before we even knew about this fight itself, having it in Saudi with the money that Turkey's got, it's allowing fighters to just go, do you know what? I'm not 100% fit here, but I can't really pass this up. Now,
God, mate, if he rang you and went, listen, Musk,
there's
5 million there, lad, if you can get to Saudi Arabia by tonight, you'd be going, wouldn't you?
Yeah, exactly. So big payday, and there's not as much pressure on getting the loss anymore, because you know that if you do well in that kind of arena, that more eyes are on you. You look good in front of like his excellency for like kind of
having a ball
for making it on 3 days, 2 days, 1 day notice or whatever, and it gets you in the mix again if something like that happens again. That's one of the good things about the UFC, is that you do have fighters on standby, and I think one of the things that it will probably end up doing for boxers is make people live their life rather than live in camp. So if you have a few weeks off where you like fucking go for it, eat whatever you want, drink whatever you want, but you go, I'll get in camp for this fight further down the line. If you're in your not peak position, but if you're in a good fit state, you can jump on a plane and make a fight on a few days' notice.
I think that's a great point you've made. You're almost, because of Turkey and this money that Saudi Arabia is throwing at boxers, you're going to get less boxers living the Ricky Hatton lifestyle, aren't you? Yeah. Because if there's Riyadh season going on every 3 to 4 months, even 6 months, and there's a slight chance there might be an injury, and you're good to go, and you're getting, right, listen, we need you in, there's a couple of million quid there for you. If you're doing a Ricky Hatton and you put on fucking 3 stone, you're not getting the call, are you?
Yeah.
You're potentially missing out on millions. So, I think it's a great point you've made. He's making fighters live the more professional lifestyle.
Because I remember Aspinall was like sitting backstage for one of the fights think it was last year, and he was basically saying like, when will I get noticed that I'm definitely not fighting, so I can kind of like relax and have something to eat, have a drink and all that kind of stuff. He's just sitting there waiting in his change. He's just thinking, I might get called upon, but I might not. And fighters do want to kind of get as close to peak as they can, so that they can potentially get on in that short notice.
No, it was a good card though. Obviously, I was just buzzing with Callum. Last thing I'll finish on, it just come to me on the top of my head then. And people will think that I'm doing this to take the piss, but no, I'm just posing like a genuine, like, it is. I think it's interesting. I mentioned last week, didn't I, about Emma Raducanu? And
No.
I'm doing it as a bit of an half piss take, but half being serious to open up this discussion and this debate what sport is, what we love to do every week. Disgusting what she's had to go to, had this fella, this fucking peeping Tom, basically just fucking perving at her, whatever he's been doing. What I think is a genuine debate and discussion to be had is, at what point, because we mentioned last week, this isn't new in tennis, you know, this goes on. There's a lot of young women in tennis who are having to deal with stuff like this all the time, which is disgusting. It's being reported now that she's being offered increased security by ex-Secret Service as she's about to take part in the Indian Wells competition. Now, number one, great. It's good that she's getting the support. But is she only getting the support because she's Emma Raducanu? Like, how many other, young tennis players are having these issues, unfortunately, with stalkers and things like that are getting the same support? You're already getting some, tennis supporters saying she's getting special treatment because of all the wild cards she's getting. Her performances aren't meriting the kind of exposure she's getting. So actually, on the field, there's an argument against her. And I'm just wondering, is there an argument against, well, why is she getting all this extra security? Why is she getting all this extra kind of, I'm not saying she shouldn't. I'm saying everyone should get that, you know what I mean? And I just think it's an interesting one with a whole, she burst on the scene, won a US Open, fantastic. It's give her this profile. She's a good-looking girl, which has got the modelling contracts and made her even bigger profile. Is that now giving her special treatment when it comes to serious issues like this?
Now, when this came out, this was a very high-profile case and stuff like that. Maybe, hopefully, because of the high-profile nature of this case, it might allow some of the other tennis players who are further down the rankings to actually speak up. Yeah. Because maybe some of them don't feel like they're in a position to, because it's like, well, if I ruffle too many feathers here, then they might not invite me back or whatever.
Exactly.
If you've got Raducanu getting this extra treatment, it could be like the first of many that then bring that kind of story to the higher ups. So she's kind of made it high profile for her particular case. But maybe it's kind of hopefully then helping the others who are like lower ranked or further down the pecking order or whatever, or not as high profile, to go, do you know what? If she's getting it, then I feel like I deserve it. I'm not going like kicking and screaming or whatever, but just to kind of say, well, I can see that this point's being raised by Emma here. Now I feel like I'm in a similar position. Now, if that doesn't happen with her, maybe these players don't speak up at all.
Yeah.
Because they just say it's part and parcel of it.
Exactly. And I just think, like, joking aside, I'm not just saying it because it's Emma Raducanu. I just think it's an interesting thing, players getting, maybe favoured over other players. It's, it starts next week in California. I think it is that right, next week? Yeah, coming up this week. So hopefully she gets the support she needs, but hopefully other players do, who may be going through that as well. Because you know what I'd hate for? She gets enough fucking stick. Not that she listens to me, but I mean, she gets enough probably stick for not living up to the potential already. You'd hate for it to, on the circuit, players to kind of be resentful of her because she's getting all this extra perks and extra wild cards and extra security when other women are going through the same and not getting that. So you wouldn't want them to be like all hating on her within the sport. Any kind of
animosity because she's getting it.
But no, I just thought that was an interesting one. I'm not going to slag her off this week. Best of luck to her in the Indian Wells Open. Anything else, Musk?
No, all good.
No, thank you very much, lad, for joining me. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in and listening. Please, again, if you haven't already, subscribe to our channel. I think we're nearly at 12,000, I think, aren't we?
Touching it, yeah.
Touching 12,000. So if you do watch the show every week, please just make sure you're subscribed. And if you want to sign up on Patreon, it just helps us pay for the show to get aired every week. That would be great as well. The link is in the bio. Have a boss weekend, and we see you next week.